Welcome back to Here for the Common Game. Today, in deck number 935, we're going to talk about Old One Eye. But before we do, I want to give a shout out to the patrons. Thank you all so much. Y'all make the quest possible to build every commander deck. And our partner, Dragon Shield. This deck is in lime matte sleeves. You can find Dragon Shield products at your friendly local game store. So if you don't have one, Canada's Collectible Games in Jackson, Tennessee is just a short drive from anywhere, galactically speaking. But let's look at old One Eye here. So for 6 mana, we get a 6/6 trample, because why not, right? That's what green does. Other creatures you control have trample. All right. When old One Eye enters a battlefield, create a 5/5 token. That's, of course, has trample now. So now we're at 11 power for 6 mana. Okay, but wait, there's more. There's a 4th line of text. At the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, you may discard 2 cards. If you do, return old One Eye from your graveyard to your hand. So, if the commander tax gets too much to pay, and you've got a couple cards you don't need, maybe they're extra lands, whatever, you can just let it go to the graveyard, get it back to your hand, and cast it for face value. So, but what I focused on was that other creatures you control have trample. So, Old One Eye is a 6-drop, and we cannot wait till turn 6 to play Old One Eye. So, we're running all the various forms of ramp. You know what I'm talking about. This is green. We got it all. We got the Soul Ring, Llanowar Elf, Elvish Mystic, Rampant Growth, Cultivate, Kodama's Reach, Moss Diamond, Migration Path. I figure that Karametra's Acolyte is going to do some work. Now, I had played this game just a couple days ago, and Karametra's Acolyte did, in fact, do some work. I lost that game, infinite combo shenaniganery, no fault of the actual deck. Biophagus, another Warhammer 40k card here. Tap, add 1 mana of any color. If this mana is spent to cast a creature spell, it enters the battlefield with an additional 1/1 counter on it. So, then we have Traverse the Outlands. 5 mana. Now, I know a ramp spell at 5 mana is like, that's not really ramp. But you search your library for X basic land cards, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. So we're probably getting, what, 5, 6? Yeah. I know ramping past your commander seems almost counterproductive, but we have some cards that are past our commander's mana value. So now, also have like Fauna Shaman. It's hard to turn this as anything other than a creature tutor. And Fauna Shaman is great, especially for commander, simply because on turn 9 and you draw that Llanowar Elf, when you don't need it then, you can just turn it into something that matters. Now, card draw. Lifecrafter's Bestiary, which was in there because we are heavy creature, right? You scry 1, you cast creatures, pin the green, draw a card. That's practically free for green. We have Soul of the Harvest, another good repeatable card draw for heavy creature decks. Explore. I've got it with card draw and not ramp, because you're always going to draw the card, but you're not always going to get to live the land. Return of the Hot Stepper. Draw cards equal to your big dude. I mean, you also have the non-human. I have never cast that mode for this card. Speaking of Garruk the Caller of Beasts. Now this, yes, I have it with the card draw section. I know it's 6 mana, but I reveal the top 5 cards of this is the +1. Reveal the top 5 cards, put all creature cards into your hand, the rest on the bottom. So there you go. It's gonna net you out of those 5, 1, 2 cards on average, maybe more. And then, of course, Vivian Reed. For the +1, you only get one creature, but it's still one per turn, you know. I'm playing with Chaos Blessing because there are many reasons to. Um, yeah, Oath, for lack of a better word. It's a meta call. This may be a slot for another good, super good draw spell or removal spell or what have you. But also have Death's Presence now. In heavy creature decks, yeah, heavy creature decks, especially ones that use +1/+1 counters. This deck is not that deck, but it is a heavy creature deck. And creatures, you know, our creatures are eventually going to die. Um, but their power is not lost. You know, you can just keep rolling. Now, what I did do was I saw it and I went, you know, I saw my commander and said, all my creatures have trample, huh? Well, I want Death Touch. I want a trample touch deck. Again, I know it's been, I've done it before. It's been several years since I've done it. But the ruling, for those new players out there, the ruling, if you'll notice, they have never printed a card with both trample and death touch on it. You have to make it yourself. So, how that works is trample states that in order to deal damage to the defending player, you have to first assign lethal damage to the blocking creature. Death Touch says any amount of damage this creature deals to a creature is lethal. So, with that in mind, you can attack with your 2/3 Kessig Recluse, and they block with, I don't care, a 10/10. You can deal 1 damage to the 10/10 and have the other 1 trample over to the player. Now, it sounds like you're trying to pull a fast one. It is one of those rules that's embarrassing, kind of the way it works when you go to explain it. Uh, every time I try to explain it to a newer player, they look at me like I'm a used car salesman. But that's how it works. Until they change it, that's how it's worked for years now. And I know the Kessig Recluse here is, you know, just a 2/3, but Death Touch, Trample Touch. That's what I did. So, okay, Adversary, Ambush Viper. I know a lot of these guys are small. Daggerback Basilisk, Deathbloom Gardener. A lot of these can be, like the Gardener, is probably classified as ramp anyway. Acidic Slime should be in removal. I mean, all these Death Touchers are technically kind of removal, right? Crawl Stinger, Moss Viper, Greyer Basilisk, Jewel-Eyed Cobra, Toxicrene. I mean, all lands have add a mana of any one color and lose all other abilities. Now, this is a great card. It has reach and death touch, which is why it made the deck, but it probably would have made it without that because we're just playing. We are playing straight forest. We have no non-basic lands, and it's for this reason because this turns off Maze of Ith, uh, Rogue's Passage, all of those funky special lands out there. Turns them off. Yeah. Hornet Queen's a good death toucher. Deadly Recluse, Heir to the Wilds, Thornwood Archer, Emrys, Gnarlwood Dryad, and Kura. That's right, Kura the Boundless Sky. It's a flying death touch dragon. And then with all those death touchers, of course, Finn's in there. Uh, would that be classified as a secret commander or secondary, whatever? But whenever a creature you control with death touch deals combat damage to a player, that player gets 2 poison counters. So if all of our creatures have death touch and they all have trample, and it doesn't really matter how they block, all we got to do is get through with 5 creatures. But you're saying, Brian, a lot of those creatures have 1 power. Well, thank you for noticing. So I have got 2 levels of pump here. I have individual pump and I have group pump. Now, overrun seems kind of redundant because it gives trample, but it gives the +3 and trample. Um, I wanted redundancy on the trample ability because our commander may not be in play. Our commander may get sorted as a response to combat. Any myriad of things. Gaea's Anthem, I know not as good as it used to be, but it does give +1/+1. And in this deck, a lot of all those one power ones need is one more. And then, of course, there is the End Race Forerunners, which is, what is that, the poor man's Crater Behemoth? Then we have our individual pump. Uh, you know what I'm talking about. Blanchwood Armor, since we are playing nothing but basic forest. It's a great addition. Rancor, individual pump, and, yep, trample. Guardian Augmenter is individual pump specifically for the commander, but your commander has hexproof, which is not nothing. A Colossus Hammer, because +10 is silly. Almost as silly as Colossification with the +20. So, we do have other creatures that are not Death Touchers, but they do have things that are just silly when we have a lot, Rampaging Bailoth, 6 mana, 6 power, trample, and, makes beast. The 8/6 color of the pack, it has myriad. Gaea's Revenge, kind of silly with trample. Shifting Ceratops, Pro Blue, it can gain trample. Nylea's Forerunner, another one that just passes out trample to your team. Mana Gorger Hydra. Now this, whenever a player casts a spell, wow. Here at the CCG, we play a lot of big games, and by big I mean 7 to 10 players. And I have seen one revolution of the board make cards like this and the red one, Tarian Mauler, into just player killers. Of course, then we have Prowling Sir Popper, mainly for the can't be countered. That is not that big of a thing here personally in our local meta, but it's pretty good. Now we have our removal. Beast Within, Naturalize, Return to Nature. But I also have 3 creatures here that do fairly good removal. The Indrik Stomp Howler, and I know this is probably where Acidic Slime should have gone, but yeah. Destroy target artifact or enchantment. Tornado Elemental. If you'll notice, we didn't have very many flyers in the deck. What, 1, 2, something like that? Enters the battlefield and deals 6 damage to each creature with flying. That kills a whole lot of flyers. Kills a lot of dragons, a lot of angels. Don't kill them all. Kills a bunch of them. And then, it's got super trample. You may have Tornado Elemental deals combat damage as though it weren't blocked. Then, of course, probably one of the better removal spells in the deck, Silverback Elder. Cast a creature, naturalize, or gain 4. Or I think all I've ever done with this is the naturalize one. I played a lot in Kibo. I'll be getting to that deck soon. I'm finding that is to be a pet deck of mine, so I'm actively looking for stuff to go in it. But that is what we have got for Old One-Eye today. I do appreciate y'all very much for watching this long. And if you've watched this long and haven't subscribed, hey, hit the subscribe button down there and what is that? Hit the bell, anyway. That way you get notifications when I post, which is as frequently as I can, but not as frequently as I want. So, thank you so much. But we're going to shuffle and cut.